Hey, what's up you guys? This is Bloody Jacob here to bring you a Season 3 general review thoughts video on Being Human. Syfy's Being Human, of course. I haven't done one of these for it in a while, but as I've said before in my past videos on it, me and my girlfriend Lily have been rewatching the series. Well, I'm rewatching the series, and she's going through it for the first time. I wanted to show it to her. She likes it quite a bit, which is awesome. And yeah, we finished Season 3 a while ago. We're actually almost on Season 4, the final season. So it's a little bit weird going back and talking about Season 3 again right now. But I still wanted to get my thoughts out there on each season of the show. I wanted to make sure I did that. Because, as I've said, if you watch the previous season videos, you'll know that Being Human, the US sci-fi version, is one of my, if not my absolute favorite TV show of all time. I just love it to death, to be completely honest with you. From the cast, the story, the music, everything. It's just really incredible to me. I always had a lot of fun with it. Especially Sam Witwer as being human, as Aidan Waite. Just one of my favorite characters in general of all time, in movies, books, TV shows, just in general, one of my favorites no matter what. And just the whole cast all around too. And like I said, it's been a little bit since I watched Season 3 now. Like I said, me and Lily are kind of in a Season 4 mode right now. But I still wanted to go back and talk about this because I just want to cover all of the show. Because I like it so much and because it means so much to me. But yeah, so Season 2 ended with yeah, also look at this DVD. It's just really awesome looking, isn't it? And where is the final season DVD? Seriously, they haven't released it. I don't think they're going to release it. And that just pisses me off. Why the hell wouldn't they? They got a really awesome DVD case. Even on the inside, I really like how they do their cases. Yeah, look at that. You open it up and it has some good stuff on the inside too. Episode descriptions, little pictures. And you flip through the discs. Very awesome. But yeah, so Season 2 ended with quite a few cliffhangers. You know, with of course the standoff between Josh, Nora, and Ray. And also Sally being trapped in limbo, and Aidan being buried alive by Mother to starve for 80 plus years. 80 plus years being how long Surin was buried underground, but to be honest, Mother would probably keep him down there forever if it was her choice. Only would she dig him up if it was a very, very rare convenience. And the season answered the season opener, which was I should know this, but yeah, the first episode of Season 3 was called "It's a Shame About Ray," and they answer all the cliffhangers pretty immediately, but not in a way you'd expect. They do it in a lighter way than you'd think, but the way they bring the flashback back up about what happened to Ray, about what's a shame about Ray and stuff like that. They just do it in a really good way that really speaks to Josh's character, and this really turned into a major development for Sam Huntington's character Josh, of course. And you know, of course, we find out that Josh had actually basically bashed his head in with a big rock, which is totally Walking Dead Rick Grimes move in the Season 2 opener on that walker. One of the ones I was after Sophia, if you remember. But anyway, we're not talking about The Walking Dead here. But so that was all good, and yeah, Sally is actually trapped in limbo. There's no real answer for that in the first episode yet. And that's more like a season-long thing, even when she does get out of it. And of course, Aidan is dug up by a random dude, pretty much. Who, wait, no, not totally random, actually. I shouldn't say totally random, because the guy who digs Aidan up is actually someone we've seen back in Season 2, I want to say. If you guys remember in Season 2, and the whole Sarah and Mother thing was really going on. The guy who digs Aidan up was one of the guards standing outside of the house where Henry was keeping all of the vampires, that weren't part of Sir and Mother's group and stuff like that. And he was one on the outside after they were all like burned after the place was signed over to Surin. And yeah, so it was kind of a fun little thing to see him again, even though he was killed pretty quickly. But we find out that he actually dug Aidan up to sort of like drain him of his blood to sell, to basically make a profit, because we found out there's this big virus going around. And that's actually how it works, is that it was a flu to like regular humans, just a regular flu that knock you on your ass for like a week or two. But to vampires, apparently it's lethal, it's deadly. And a lot of vampires have apparently been dying off because of how they so greedily consume and drink live and stuff like that. And so a lot of the population has been dying off. And we see Atlee, he rescues Aidan from the guy who is keeping him locked, chained up and stuff like that. And Aidan really gets like the Hannibal Lecter treatment with the way he's being held. It was pretty awesome, actually. If you guys remember like the little mask he was wearing around his mouth and stuff like that. Hannibal Lecter for sure. And I am sorry about the Hannibal cancellation from NBC, by the way. That hurts. Brings up old wounds of what happened to Dracula. But anyway, yeah, Atlee. Yeah, my cat's in the background as usual. You see her there. But yeah, let's see where she's going. I don't know. But yeah, I apologize for her. But yeah, Atlee rescues Aidan, and he explains to him that Mother has apparently been one of the victims of the flu as well. Apparently, she disintegrated herself. Not disintegrated herself, but she herself was disintegrated after consuming a sick human. And how do I feel about that? Okay, well, this kind of spoils like the rest of the season and season 4 as well. Mother never comes back, and I have sort of mixed feelings on that. I mean, of course, I'm happy she's dead, after what she had done to Aidan and Surin throughout their lives and stuff like that, and especially what she did to Surin at the end of season 2. But I'm sort of disappointed that we never got to see Aidan like fully have his revenge or like vengeance or justice for Surin. I mean, because after the way season 2 ended, I was excited for season 3 because I really was excited to see Aidan eventually get a hold of Mother and kill her himself, like more directly. But instead we get this flu thing, and Aidan turns out to be one of the few uninfected. And Mother was one of the ones that died from it. And we don't even see Mother die on screen, we just hear she's dead, and that's pretty much all we hear from her. That's pretty much all we hear about her again for the rest of the series. And to me, that's a little bit of a disappointment. That's a little bit of an anticlimax. Yes, she's dead, but we didn't get to see the character who should have killed her kill her, and her death was off screen anyway. So that kind of took away from it a little bit for me. But still, nonetheless, I really liked that first episode, and that little cameo, the guest appearance from Mark Pellegrino, of course, as Bishop, being a part of Aidan's psyche as he always is. Of course, because of the complicated relationship and the history between the two. He's sort of like, Aidan's having visions of him, as well as, of course, Josh and Sally. And, Aidan's thinking, yeah, he's not going to die, he's not going to die. And the Bishop part of his psyche is actually the thing that wills him on, the thing that pushes him to make a move, to take action against Atlee and sort of get his strength back to want to survive, which I thought was really, really interesting and actually makes sense when you think about it. And but of course Aidan is still like blood starved, and so he's very weak, which is why he was captured in the first place by the guy at the beginning. And so when he tries to attack Atlee, of course Atlee is able to counter because Aidan's too weak at the time. And, he bites him to try and take the cure for himself instead of bringing him back to all the other vampires. But it turns out that Aidan's blood, despite him being uninfected, he isn't the cure to it. and so Atlee actually just disintegrates as he's driving, and the van crashes, and Aidan, flies out. So yeah, Aidan manages to survive. And I also like the comment from Josh as Bishop was like talking to him in Aidan's mind. Josh is like, "Oh yeah, I sort of get it now. He's super compelling." But yeah, so that was all really good. And again, Bishop sort of put Aidan on that course to want to survive, and he just decides, "Yeah, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die." And it's really a fairly powerful moment when he actually does move, and he drinks some of the blood from the vehicle and stuff like that. That's dripping off the vehicle, I should say. Vehicles don't have blood, or do they? But anyway, yeah, so I really like that part of it. But again, we're not talking about just the first episode of the season, but this is connecting to something else that goes throughout the rest of the season, actually, because of course the whole virus thing. And my thoughts on the whole virus arc, I guess I could say in general. I think it was pretty well done because we got that really like walls closing in feeling throughout the season because of the danger of Aidan possibly being infected by the virus. And we also see, as Aidan's looking for clean blood, Henry had actually survived as well, but he had done it by compelling this girl to be like his blood slave pretty much in this one house, and she didn't go anywhere, and she's trapped in there permanently, and he just drank from her whenever he wanted. And so Aidan messed that up for Henry purposely because Aidan at the time had more of a good-hearted nature, as he gets more and more of throughout the series as it goes on. Anyway, he has more of a conscience from right and wrong and things like that. But anyway, so Henry eventually succumbs to the virus as well, which was sad to see. But we also don't see Henry's death on screen either. We're just supposed to assume he died. We see him; he's very sick, and he just sort of like walks off. But then we hear that he's dead for sure by Aidan afterwards. But what was up with two major characters like Mother and Henry just dying off screen? I don't know. I mean, I guess Henry sort of made sense when it was kind of like poetic or something, I guess. But with Mother, it was still a big disappointment because I still want to see Aidan, stake that bitch, Excuse my language. But yeah, so that virus thing sets Aidan's character down, or Semwetworth's character, down a very interesting path. I really had a lot of time invested in for the season, because as Aidan does eventually get sicker, because he doesn't get... Aidan does get infected by the virus because he purposely goes pretty careless with what with who he drinks from, because everyone just dies around him. He's just sort of like it's sort of just becoming more and more difficult for him to find reason to live because he's seen the death of Rebecca, the death of Sir, and people he cares about left and right with Henry and Bishop. And so Aidan is really searching for a reason to live throughout this season as well. And I think it was in season 3, episode 2 or episode 3, we get a little Aidan and Sally tease when they're kind of both talking about their collective problems. Let my cat out. I'm gonna let my cat out. Excuse me. I apologize. Yeah. How graceful was I? But anyway. Anyway, see Aidan touch Sally's hand for the first time as Josh and Nora were able to resurrect Sally, by using Ray's heart and meeting the witch Donna, which turns into a huge problem later. But, so Sally is resurrected, but we find out later she has her own issues with being resurrected, I should say. But yeah, I really like that Aidan and Sally moment when they sort of make eye contact with each other and the music's going. Yeah, it's just a really nice tease. And I really like the slow and steady build-up of a potential relationship between the two characters as the show goes on. But we can talk about more of that once I do my Season 4 review, because that's when stuff really happens. But, yeah, so I like that too. And back to what I was talking about with Aidan. And as he gets sicker, you know, he starts having these flashbacks to, you know, how, you know, his life as a human and, you know, who he originally loved. And of course we see Catherine Isabel. Of course you guys know how much I love Catherine Isabel if you watch my videos. Probably still my favorite actress in general. Catherine Isabel plays Aidan's wife Susanna on the show in seasons 3 and 4. And it was just great, of course, a big geek out moment for me to see her on my favorite show and to see her playing my favorite character's wife. That's pretty awesome. So that's a really good role to see her in. And so I really loved all the Aidan flashbacks this season. Those are probably the highlight of the season for me, I'd say. And to see what exactly happened to his family, it was just really devastating and something I've been really curious about for a while, so it was great to finally see that in this season. Of course, I love the episode where they really show what happened to Susanna, or what supposedly happened to her. Of course, when Aidan was brought back by Bishop and turned into a vampire, you know, he came back to Susanna and his son and stuff like that. But of course, when other people in the village, you know, found out he was somehow alive again, of course, in those times they were jumpy about witches and things like that, so they accused Susanna of being a witch or worshipping the devil, and you know, they thought Aidan as a demon and things like that. And so they basically tie her to a rock and, you know, rope and stuff like that, and they basically drown her when they're questioning her, and she refuses to, you know, give Aidan up, pretty much. And so Susanna supposedly dies by drowning, and Aidan, he sees her, you know, her body supposedly lifelessly floating in the water, and he just has a complete breakdown, and the men start beating on him, and he tells his son to run, and, you know, Isaac, of course, and which really they bring back later in the finale with what happens with Kenny, but we can talk about that in a few more minutes. But and of course Aidan, just as soon as his son is like is like out of the distance of seeing what's happening, Aidan just goes into vampire mode and he just slaughters all the men responsible for what happened to Susanna. And you know, he bites necks left and right, he snaps necks, and then when he gets to the priest he says, "This is for my wife." And he snaps his neck really brutally, and he just lets out this like scream, or this like roar pretty much, which is really awesome. And so yeah, I absolutely love that episode and those scenes especially. Of course, now he's also seen like the struggle of Aidan and Susanna trying to have a child, and you know, they finally had one because Aidan promised God he would live the rest of his life being a good man, and which really speaks to what happens later in the series and things like that. But yeah, we'll talk about that in season 4. So I really loved all that. Yeah, Sally went down an interesting path this season as well. But we'll get to that in a few more minutes. I'm going to try not to jump around a whole lot. I'm going to try and stay in some kind of order here, you know what I mean? But Aidan also meets a kid named Kenny, who is held at the hospital that, you know, him and Josh and Nora work at. And it turns out Kenny has been held there, you know, for most of his life, because, you know, he has this disease where anything can like really, really make him sick, possibly kill him, be lethal to him. And so, you know, he's like a bubble boy pretty much. I don't want to say that, that sounds insulting, but you know, and him and Aidan sort of like a formless friendship as Aidan's, you know, taking care of him. And since Kenny hasn't been exposed to any of these flus or viruses or anything, of course that means he has clean blood. And Kenny is a kid that's like really into like comic books and horror movies and things like that, which is awesome. And you know, like Aidan sees him watching like some of the older horror movies, like The Thing, I think I remember seeing, and then they even make a joke on Twilight, like Kenny asks Aidan if he sparkles or something like that, or Aidan says he doesn't sparkle. Yeah, so I love the knock on Twilight, of course. And you know, Kenny eventually figures out that Aidan's a vampire, which is a pretty big moment. And so Kenny wants Aidan to turn him because, you know, he doesn't want to live his life like this anymore, even if it means not seeing his father, which, you know, is a price he should have considered a little bit more. But yeah, so once Kenny is turned, you know, it sends him down a completely different path, and Aidan of course finds out, you know, he's like sort of like creating these mutant vampires. You know, when he sleeps, he like sleepwalks and then he tries to infect people, and you know, it turns into like these weird mutant hybrid type of vampires. And yeah, so that was you know, one of the more odd things about the season. Not really odd, that sounds like a bad thing, but it's just pretty different, seeing the different designs for some of the vampires and stuff like that. And we also met a character named Pete this season, like an older werewolf who met Nora and Josh. He's like really wise, and he sort of like talks to Josh about becoming one with his wolf, and it actually ends up helping Josh later, but he just doesn't know it yet. And the three of them get along really well, but unfortunately, despite Aidan's warning to Blake, who is like a redhead, about like an 11-year-old vampire, not literally 11 years old, but she's only been a vampire for 11 years, you know what I mean? But so Aidan told Blake to tell all the other vampires to leave his friends, Josh, Levison, and Nora Sargent alone, but of course Pete was included in that, so Pete is unfortunately killed, which is really sad to see. My girlfriend was pretty upset by that. And so Josh and Nora also go down like a really good story this season, one of my favorites for them, because we get a good tie back to season 2. If you guys remember Connor and Brynn in season 2, their father, shows up in the season premiere as well, and he's seeking revenge or vengeance for what happened to Connor. And he goes to this house of vampires, and he sees Connor's wolf head mounted on a wall, and he just really kills all the vampires, and he eventually finds out that, as the season goes, he finds out that Aidan was the one that killed him. And then he's also trying to find out what happened to Brynn, and we find out that Nora had actually killed Brynn in self-defense when she was on the road with her. And Aidan and Nora were kind of at odds this season, which was like one of the other little story points throughout. And it was good, just like with all the judgment Nora was like putting upon Aidan, it was good to finally see her come around and see the good in him and his intentions and things like that. We also met a character named Aidan, who is a few years younger than me, at least the character is, and she gets infected by a werewolf, and Josh and Nora sort of take care of her, but she's a rebel, and she's eventually lured in by Liam, and he sort of uses her as like a mole, and eventually Aidan is forced to defend himself as he is poisoned by not really poisoned, but he's seen what werewolf blood does to vampires, and he is almost staked by Aidan, so he has to, in self-defense, kick her, and she is knocked out, and she almost dies from her injury, and Nora sort of held that against Aidan throughout the season, but Liam ends up killing her, by suffocating her with a pillow when she's in the hospital. But when Liam captures Aidan, because Aidan is like forced to walk off with him, because Liam confronts him when he's with one of Nora's friends called Kat, who's named Kat, and her and Aidan sort of like spark off a romance. But so Aidan's like sort of forced to walk off with Liam because he couldn't like do anything as a vampire with Kat around, because she has like no knowledge of any of that stuff. And Liam holds Aidan, and he's like questioning him, beating him with sledgehammers, and like not staking him in the heart, but just enough to injure him and cause him pain, things like that. And Aidan actually takes the blame or the credit for killing Brynn, when he knows Nora had actually been the one to do it. And so, Josh is human now after he had killed Ray. When he goes to rescue Aidan, he is unfortunately scratched by Liam, and he turns into a werewolf again eventually. But once Nora finds out that Aidan actually took the blame for what happened to Brynn, she sort of like sees him in a different light and sort of forgives him a little bit more for things, which is good to see. And so also I can't go over like every part of each character in this season, but also I like what went on with Sally this season as well. Is pretty bizarre, but kind of funny at the same time. Of course, she is resurrected, she has a body, but at the same time there of course is a price, as Donna mentions here and there, but doesn't really go into too much because she can't tell him everything, of course, right? And it turns out that Sally ends up craving flesh. At first she only wants like things as small as a rat, but then she eventually starts eating like raw hamburger meat. Then she eventually starts craving bigger things like cats and dogs, and she eventually has an urge to eat a child. And so we never see that happen too much, but Nick and Stevie were resurrected with her as well. And we see that Nick Nick and Stevie could both go down a darker path than Sally did, because Nick's eating cats, and Stevie actually went home to his parents, who were happy to see him, but he still unfortunately killed them and a mailman and ate them. And so we see Josh and Sally go over to him later, and actually have to put him down. Josh does, in the basement, by hanging him at Stevie's request, by the way, which was an interesting parallel for the character. And Nick is killed by Zoe, of course, the one who can talk to ghosts and things like that, in self-defense. And it was interesting seeing Sally deal with that, and of course Aidan offering Sally to bite into him and to eat some of him because he can regenerate. But it was just a really funny scene when Sally was trying to bite into Aidan. She said his skin's like a tire, trying to bite into a tire, which is pretty funny. But Donna is also a really, very, very good villain for the season as well. Of course, seeing her power as a witch was pretty awesome. And so that season finale is also very good. Rut-row. Yeah, that's it. I swear, I really like these titles to each of the episodes. They're all some kind of reference, episode 8 was of Mice and Wolfmen, which of course is of Mice and Men. I just find it really cool how they insert these little references into their episode titles. But Rut-row is a great finale as well. Of course, we see the climax to what happens with Liam. Of course, we find out that Kenny, as he's turned into a vampire, he's turning into one of those more mutant things as well. And we see a final fight between Liam and Aidan and the rest of them. Just as Aidan makes him and Sally have a very interesting conversation just before Liam attacks in the finale. And he admits that if you remember back to season 1, when when the whole thing with Rebecca and Bernie was going on, that he actually, a part of him actually wanted that family. That even if they were vampires, he still has this impulse to want to create more and to want to have that type of thing for himself. Which is of course a parallel to the flashbacks with his wife and things like that. And it's pretty good to hear him talk about Rebecca again. Even if it was really quick like that, it still gives you a better understanding of when all that was going on. Makes you say, oh yeah, that makes even more sense now. So I really like that. And of course, Liam attacks pretty viciously. He shoots Aidan in the head with a gun. Of course, bullets can't kill vampires, but if you shoot them in the right spots, it can incapacitate them. And of course, he shoots him in the head first, which is pretty shocking. And then he shoots him in the leg and a few other times, in other parts of his body. And so he tosses Aidan down to the basement, tries to kill Kenny. Oh no, he killed Kenny! South Park. Right, no, Kenny doesn't actually die. And Sally stops that from happening. Liam is actually about to use a shovel. He breaks it into a stake type of thing, and Sally actually lights it on fire to stop him. As Liam's freaked out by that, Aidan was impaled against the wall, but he actually pulls Liam in and impales him on it as well. So Aidan's the one to kill Liam. Unfortunately, that means Josh can't turn back into a human, but it was still good to see Aidan be the one to do it. And, Kenny unfortunately tries to drink from Nora as she was knocked out by Liam, but they stop it from happening, and she survives too, which is good. And, like I said, I really liked the scene with Aidan and Kenny when Aidan's remembering what happened to his wife in this episode, and then he tells Kenny to run just like he did with his son. It was a really powerful and intense moment. And of course he tells the others that he had killed Kenny, put him down sort of like he did with Bernie in season 1, but of course he let him go. And so you got a few pretty good cliffhangers with this season as well. Nora waking up in the morning in the woods, but of course seeing Josh still in werewolf form, you're like, what the hell is going on with that? And then thinking we had gotten rid of Donna after Sally was actually able to overpower her in episode 12, which is a great episode as well. And Donna actually appears to be more powerful than we realize, and Sally is sort of dragged off to somewhere we don't know yet by Donna. which is, you know, of course, a very good cliffhanger. And of course, we see Catherine Isabel return to Susanna in the present. What the hell is going on with that? As she gets out of the taxi as Aidan's walking down the street, which is a pretty awesome reveal. And I just got really excited for that when I first seen it, because I love Catherine Isabel. And I was just really excited to know that her role would be expanded in season 4. So that was awesome. And yeah, so yeah, that's all I have to really say about the specifics of the season. My favorite episodes of the season, I really like the premiere. I really like the premiere. It's a shame about Ray, and I also like the episodes when Aidan sort of was trying to find his purpose on the concentration he and Sally had. You know, you had flashbacks of Cern and Rebecca and stuff like that. And of course, you know, and of course when Sally held a stake over his heart, and you know, reminding him how Josh, Nora, and herself are enough for him. So I like those episodes, and I also really liked, I think it was episode 8, when Aidan is held by Liam, you know, in that chamber. Your Body is a Condemned Wonderland. I like that one. I don't know if that is the episode. And of course I like the episodes of flashbacks to Aidan and his wife. And I also loved episode 12, because that was Josh and Nora finally get married, and that was one of the happiest moments in the entire series, in my opinion. When I first seen that episode of Josh and Nora's wedding at the house, I couldn't stop smiling, literally. It's just so happy for the characters. I love it, man. And of course everything works so well with that, just every little step of it. And of course I just talked about the finale. That was great too. So yeah, ruh-roh. But yeah, so my favorite episodes, the premiere, the episodes that dealt with the specific plot points I pointed out, Always a Bridesmaid, Never Alive, the wedding episode, and ruh-roh, of course. But yeah, so there's my thoughts on season 3 of Being Human in general. Of course, I didn't mention everything, so if you want to hear my thoughts on other parts of it that I didn't mention or didn't talk enough about, feel free to leave a comment below. Would love to discuss it with you guys. And yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really love talking about this, even if it's going back to a point where I'm not at now with rewatching with my girlfriend. I still like to think back, because it's such a great show, and honestly is probably my favorite TV series of all time. And yeah, so if you guys enjoyed this video, I'll catch you guys next time, most likely for a video talking about that Season 6 banner that was just released for The Walking Dead. And yeah, I may actually try to make some tribute music videos at some point down the road. My girlfriend just made one to Being Human, by the way. Look up Lily Persicki on YouTube and you'll find her channel. She just made a really awesome tribute to the show, and it's also on my favorites list on my channel too. Yeah, Take Me Away. And yeah, so check that out, and I'll catch you guys next time, and peace.